What's up, guys? This is Carlos Green with the Men's Power Connect, and we are back again. And look, we're continuing to rock these amazing t-shirts.
I like them.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And I am here with my brothers, again, Iron Sharpening Iron, and I'd love for them to introduce themselves.
Hey, Osei here.
Hey, y'all. Myron here. Glad to be back.
Yeah. And again, the Men's Power Connect, our mission is to engage, equip, and empower men in life and leadership.
That's it. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get access to more great content. This is part 2. So make sure you subscribe. Go to Facebook. Go to YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram, but you can see the first parts of this on YouTube at Men's Power Connect.
Yeah, they had me. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and again, we appreciate you all for coming on and viewing our content. We know it is very imperative, especially in this time, for us to be able to provide something for men and fathers that we know will be impactful in your lives. So, yeah, thank you for tuning in, getting those views up. Absolutely.
So we're going to dive into the content of our episode here, which is Day One Dad, Part 2. So if you haven't listened to Part 1, go back and listen to that episode as well.
Yeah.
They give you some great opportunities to reflect on your own journey as a dad. And we're going to continue now into Part 2 of Day One Dads.
And don't forget, share your comments. If you go back and listen, or if you haven't listened, when you do, drop in the comments as you're hearing us talk about the first time we held our sons, the first time we found out, when we first found out we were going to be dads. Share those moments. We love to hear from you all what that was like for you, if you share that with us.
So diving in, here's the question that we're asking each one of us, and I'm sure that it's going to bring back some memories for you as well. So here's the question. How did fatherhood change your life? So how did becoming a father change your life? Who wants to go first?
Go for it. So I would say for me, what I felt like I knew kind of the things that I wanted as a young man. So I had a good plan, and a lot of that I attribute to my father, because he had a plan. When I was going through college, I dug up his certificate, his degree, and I made a photocopy of it and I posted it on my wall.
Wow! And
that was my motivation for me finishing college, right? And then I had this mantra of, December 2005 or bust. Like if it don't happen in December 2005, you're not gonna graduate at all. So it's got to happen. So that helped. And then having come to faith and really on that journey of walking with the Lord. So I had a good picture of what things I wanted to be doing in my life, with my life. So I would say the biggest thing that changed was my why. And when I found out about my son, that's when everything shifted to, I don't want to just do these things. I'm glad I'm doing these things because that's what God has called me to do. But now I've got to do them because God has called me to do these things, and I've got to be a representation. And so that's where, for me, it really changed, because I felt like, okay, I want to be a great husband so that my son sees what being a great husband looks like. I want to be a great husband so that me and my wife remain together, and I don't create a situation where I'm having to come visit my son. I want to be a great man of God so that I can teach him how to be a great man of God. I want to be about my business when I go to work so that I can provide for him the things that he wants. If he wants to take a Taekwondo lesson, or if he wants to take a baseball lesson, I want to position us as a family to where we can do these things and it not be an ultimate sacrifice.
So even financially,
in all aspects, I'm now where these things were me focusing on me and my wife to be able to position ourselves. Now it transitions to, okay, I'm responsible for a whole nother life. So I've got to make sure that I'm making decisions that will benefit him when he's 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on. So that, I think that was the big shift for me, is it really transitioned to, you've got somebody else who's depending on you. Right. So you've got to be about your business. And I think about the verse in scripture that talks about when I was a child, I thought as a child, I acted as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. I can't have that mentality of being a kid. I've got to really embrace and step into this responsibility.
Yeah.
No, I think there's some similarity in that for me as well.
Yeah.
For me, I really had to like look in the mirror. This was an introspection moment for me.
Yeah.
Right. What are some of the things that I've been neglecting as a man that I know now that I have this responsibility? I can't ignore those things anymore.
Right.
You know, those things that are under the surface, those things that are intangible, that I know I probably need to put more attention on. Now I need to focus on those a little bit more, whether it be my prayer life, whether it be my relationship with my family, whether it be, with me just doing the responsible thing, getting up in the morning, getting in the gym, having my meditation, devotion time. Those things now have to be consistent and in play. And also making sure that the things that I've neglected or just kind of put to the side, that I know that needed a little bit more attention. Those have to be, even though I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to look at myself in the mirror and say, these are the things that you're falling short on. What are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? But I had to have that real conversation, that monologue with myself and say, this thing is about to get real, man. So not only did I think about,
because this is going to happen with or without you.
100%. Yeah. So not only did I think about, similar to you, Myron, my future, as a father, but also what are some of the things that I've kind of like accumulated from my past that needs a little bit more exposure, right? That needs to be kind of taken from under the rock, right? And dealt with.
And that's so that as he comes of age, he doesn't have to wrestle with those things, right? So I love that. Like you said, let me take inventory of, okay, what are some areas of my life that I know that's there, but not right now.
Right.
And now it's like, nope, because if I don't, then he's going to have to wrestle with that. He's going to have to struggle with that.
Yeah.
That's
and we talk about breaking the generational curse, but it's hard because it's more than just prayer. You got to face yourself.
You got to face yourself.
You got to be real.
Hold on. Rewind.
Rewind.
Just skip over that. It's more than just prayer.
It's more than just prayer. You got to do the work. You got to do the work, and you have to create time and opportunity and moments for you to really reflect and put out there what it is that maybe you struggle with, or again that you've neglected. Having a conversation with maybe someone that is a confidant. And it's really putting those things to light so that you can deal with it, process it, and then put it behind you. Now I'm focused and equipped to be able to raise my son, because now those things are behind me. Now, here's my disclaimer. I'm not perfect. You know what I'm saying? I'm still a work in progress to this day.
But you have intentionality, though. You have intentionality behind what you're doing.
It's very key. Yeah. So for me, the inventory piece, when I knew that I had my son, all right, there's some things, brother, you need to deal with, and we got to deal with it now. Yeah.
So powerful.
But I love, like you said, that intentionality is so crucial.
Yeah. So it's critical.
Because we all know there's things, right, that either we need to do or we need to stop doing, we need to deal with. But can we really be intentional enough to focus in and say, okay, I'm going to deal with this. Here's how I'm going to deal with this. Here's like you mentioned, finding a confidant, having that inner monologue. Just again, that intentionality is so big.
Yeah. Going back to the tape recorder, if y'all saw the last episode, I would use that tape recorder to have my own personal sessions. And I know it sounds corny, y'all.
I bet every psychologist, counselor probably be like, day one. Here we go. Like, literally.
I'm telling you, but that's what worked for me.
And that's your space, right? So that's where it makes sense. Like, knowing you, we hear that and like with that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Some write,
correct.
Some, they may go out into nature and just have their, for me, it's the recorder. Yeah.
I don't think that's corny. Again, I think that's intentionality. And being able to process through some of those challenging thoughts that you may be having.
Right.
And bringing clarity to what you're going to do moving forward. I absolutely love that. That's a great,
thank you.
very applicable tip that other men can do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, in the situation that I was in where we were pregnant, then we got married, and then we had our son, and all of that was in the same year, becoming a father made me affirm my identity. I needed to understand who I was in this situation. Not only was I a dad now, but I was also a husband.
Yeah.
And for me, I needed to make sure I was a husband first, because my wife needed that level of support. And then I became the dad. And if I could be a great husband, then that increases my chances of becoming a great dad. And I wanted to put it in the appropriate order of priority. So first being a man of God, then being a great husband, and then being a great dad.
I love that.
So it matured me to the point to where I needed to truly not only understand my identity, but walk in my authenticity.
Yeah.
I needed to be authentic in who I was in order to be able to move in this space appropriately. It also brought me closer to God because there was so much change that happened in my life during that period of time that I needed to anchor myself in truth. And the only way that I could do that is by being intentional and becoming closer to God, being in His Word, and ensuring that I could progress through this fatherhood stage doing it well. Doing it well.
Right. But that makes sense though, because especially during that time, you know, and I appreciate your transparency. Like this was a time where you now had to, this is all new and very weighted responsibilities as a husband and as a father.
That's correct.
Trying to figure out your identity. There's no other way to do it but through God. You know what I mean? Like you can read the books, you can do the self-help, you know, and all that stuff. But when we're talking about identity and how what I'm carrying out is going to mean for those around me, I've got to get my answers through the Father.
That's right.
Because He's the only one that, you know what I mean? Like He knows.
Right.
Right. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
And you know, for a lot of people, they may think, all right, I got to just do specific things or certain things that other people do to be able to figure this out. But you understood that it was more than just kind of like the outside stuff. It was more the intangibles,
it really was
the matters of the heart that I needed to really get to in order to really identify who I am in these spaces.
And I love what you said about the order, being a man of God first, being a great husband, then I can be a great dad. And then going back to the emphasize, if I'm a great husband, then, and I think that's so critical because in talking about how a child, you know, you're becoming a dad changes your life, you grow as a husband.
Right.
Because you recognize if things are off between me and my wife, then it impacts the atmosphere. I know we're not on marriage right now, but this is a critical piece to it, right? Because I know for me, there were times where early on in our marriage where we were struggling through different things. The change came when I took inventory, when I looked in the mirror, you know, because, you know, we'll go in prayer and be like, all right, Lord, she didn't do this. Right. And she said, And then as you pray through that, the Lord starts telling you, but you're the leader in this home. What are you doing? How are you looking at how you're leading? How are you looking at the type of man that you are to her? Are you being a husband that would cause her to want to follow you? Are you being a husband that will cause her to want to serve you? And so when you start walking through it without having a child around, you can almost be that prideful. She gonna have to. But when you got a son that you're looking at, you got to remember my actions impact not just my life, but they impact his life.
Right.
So I can't be stubborn. I can't be prideful. I've got to really, like you talked about, do that internal inventory and say, okay, God, I'm struggling here. I'm wrestling with this.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing I get to. But then you even got the influence of maybe how you were raised or the things that happened in your family.
That's correct.
That you saw, that you're carrying into your marriage, good or bad, right? Because I didn't marry my mom.
Right.
I married Donna Lee.
Right.
So I can't look at how what I saw with my mom and put that expectation on her. This is not a marriage course, right? But we can't, you know what I mean? But we can't do that. But it all ties in,
it's
right?
all integrated.
Because that is a part of your life changing as a father. It permeates so many different areas of your life. And like you said, it shines a light on some areas where maybe you was thinking you was all that and you wasn't.
I think for me, it was, am I really carrying my relationship with God in the highest space? Am I really, truly making sure that my relationship with him was authentic and that I wasn't using him as a genie in a bottle?
Right.
Or that I wasn't praying for just all these blessings to come, but I was truly praying for wisdom for my relationship with him. And then how do I love my wife unconditionally, even though we were going through these massive changes and I was doing it for better or for worse? I truly love my wife. I love her then and I love her now, but I wanted to make sure that I was loving her by looking through God's eyes so that I could love her through God's heart. It's what I really wanted to do. And it would also set the example for my son. And I know he was just born, but I wanted to put him in an environment that could be flourishing and growing and loving instead of dissension and anxiety and stress, because that impacts his development.
Whether we realize it or not.
Whether we realize it or not. So me taking responsibility as a husband, as the leader of my household, I wanted to be the one to set the atmosphere in my home, not only for my wife, but also for my son and for the next son that we had as well. And I knew that once they became of age, I wanted them to be able to look back and see a strong model of what a healthy marital relationship looks like, and that they can have the same thing even more because they've got the example and they've had the experiences of living in a healthy environment. So that's how it changed me as a father. That's how fatherhood changed me. The intentionality that I had in every aspect of my life. In that. And God has been so gracious and so good and so he's blessed us above and beyond what we could ever ask or imagine. And I'll say this one last thing. We can move on. We penned Psalms 128 as our family prayer. It's only 6 verses in there, but in that 3rd or 4th verse, it says that you want your children to be like olive shoots around your table. And those olive shoots are strong and they grow, but they have to be placed in the appropriate environment in order for them to be strong olive shoots. I had to take responsibility of creating that environment so that they could flourish there. So oftentimes you will hear me reference my sons as olive shoots because that's our family prayer that we have.
I like it, man.
I'm trying to get out of that marriage space, man. When you talk about the atmosphere, I think it's important that men know we are the atmosphere setters.
That's correct.
We set the atmosphere in our homes. I know your wife is a prayer warrior, and I know that's great, but that atmosphere is really set by the father. What is his demeanor? How is he with his wife? How is he with the kids? They're not going to walk on eggshells because mom walks around. But when dad walks around and his demeanor is, that puts the whole house on eggshells. So again, there's such a vital role that we play in the home, in our families as fathers, and even with our wives. I don't know when we're going to do something on on marriage, but that one got to come.
That'd be great.
Sure.
And I would say fatherhood has made me a better person, a more authentic person.
Right.
And I love being a father. I love being in this space as a dad.
Right.
Just to see